Do you thirst for war? Do you enjoy dropping out of the skies and rampaging furiously through your enemy's ranks? Are you like us? Are you one who does not think and just charges? This video's for you. Welcome back. Alright, welcome back to Don't Think Just Charge. I'm Dave, and today we are going to be doing another list building episode. You guys seem to love it so much, so thank you for all of your engagement on the last video. We've had loads of good discussions in the Discord. I spoke to one player on Reddit. Honestly, hearing and seeing all the feedback you guys are giving keeps us moving. You guys seem to love this series that I'm now starting apparently so much that it is going to become a series. I'm going to start to go through a few armies, and so if you want to see your army discussed here, get in touch with us, put your comments down below, join the Don't Think Just Charge Discord, get involved with the conversation, and who knows, maybe your favourite army will be here soon. By popular demand, today we are looking at the Wormhole Demons of War, or the Rift Demons of War if you're coming from fantasy. The OPR Demons of War. Let's say Demons of War one more time, shall we? These guys are such an exciting army to play. I love the Demons armies and one-page rules. They are a perfect army no matter where you are in the game, I think. They are excellent, especially the Demons of War, if you are perhaps newer to the game and you just want to pick some great minis, throw them down on the table and smash face with your opponent. Phrasing. But also perhaps if you're looking for a bit more depth in your strategy and you want to start to push a competitive side, if you want to start winning a little bit more and engaging different ways of thinking about your strategy on the battlefield, the Demons are an excellent place to be. They offer such a range and such depth of strategic choice that they will really just service you for pretty much anything. In particular, I have to say, I love the Demons range from OPR. The minis are astounding. I've got a Lust Demon army that I speed painted for an event, and honestly I just wish I had infinite time to go back, go over those minis and give them so much love and detail to all of the decoration that's on them. Absolutely standout work from OPR. I mean, just look at this huge guy at the top. Maybe we'll put someone nice and big in our army list today. Spoilers, of course we will. So let's get into it, shall we? As we've discussed in our last video, what I like to do typically is look at the spells and the special rules for an army. So what's going on here, Dave? Let's start with the most important one. The army-wide rule that applies to all demons, and oddly enough it's called Demon. The model may be deployed as if it had Ambush or Scout, but only up to half of the units with this rule in the army may deploy using one or the other, rounding up. So, you've got 8 units, 4 of them can go into Ambush, 4 of them can Scout. That is incredible. Ambush is an incredibly powerful ability that don't leave home without. I recommend bringing at least one Ambush unit to every game you play, but also the fact that the whole army can start not in a basic deployment is so valuable. Remember, in particular with Scouts, that there is a lot of versatility there as to how you deploy. Now, it was a topic that was raised, so I'm just going to do a quick start point now of discussing Scout. You may set aside those models before deployment. After all of the units are deployed, you must then deploy it, and then you can place it anywhere within 12 inches of their starting position. You alternate it, you get back and forth like you would with deployment for your Scout units. It is this little bit here that catches so many people out. It can then be placed anywhere within 12 inches of their position. The thing that is so often overlooked is the word may. It is very easy when you are scouting your units to set a trap for yourself. You scout up your unit and then you think, hey, I can either move into a position where I'm going to be taking objectives, threatening opponent units, or doing whatever you're trying to do with your scout, setting up a charge next turn, so on. You get your shots off if you've got some early shooting units, whatever it may be. The issue is, and it comes down to the way that movement works in OPR, your unit is suddenly very isolated. If you take a single scout unit You shove it up the board nice and early. Perhaps you've even got your first activation. You fire off all of your shots, you hit your target, you do a good amount of damage, well done. The problem is that the rest of your army's movements then are so far away. If you have moved up this 12 inches, you're 12 inches closer to the enemy deployment zone. Remember that OPR is typically a 24-inch game between deployment zones. So you've halved that distance. Great for you, also great for your opponent. If your opponent's going to then move up, they can get multiple attacks onto the unit, maybe by charge, maybe by shooting, that perhaps they wouldn't have had such an easy time doing before. You might accidentally give them too easy of a target to do without any source of punishment because, and this is talking down to the movement thing, if your other units are all way back in your deployment zone, they're going to end their move still probably out of threat range of wherever your opponent's coming round to attack your unit. Your opponent can then advance their battle line, keep overlapping fields of fire, keep overlapping charge ranges which give threat, and snap your poor little scout unit in two. Usually scouts aren't very tough as well, and so from that point scouts can be a trap. Now where it can be very strong is remembering you don't have to move that 12 inches. Ultimately, with your scouts, as we have here with the demons, where everything that is on the board may be deployed as a scout, pretending you're going to stick half an ambush, for example here, you wait. Your opponent deploys all of their units that don't have scout or ambush, and then from that point, you can put yours down. You can then move them however you want. You don't have to put all of them down and then move them. You put it down and move, and then you put down another and move that. So this also helps you overcome a little bit of another trap that I fall into so damn often in OPR, which is I put a unit down and I think, great, that is exactly where I want it to be. I've maybe moved a little bit ahead in terms of my strategy up here in my brain box, and oops, I don't have space to put down the rest of my units. Now, I actually hadn't really thought too much about the jigsaw puzzle. I hadn't thought about the social distancing rule, the 1-inch rule that got brought in recently, and now I can't fit my models onto the board. So the ability to put something down and then move it with scout, so valuable. On top of that, if you've got multiple scout units, then you can build up a little bit of a pressuring flank attack perhaps. You've got 2 or 3 scouting walkers perhaps. If you're let's think about the high elf fleets who've got their lovely little tough 6 shooty guys. You can stick 2 of them on the side and push up and put a bit of pressure down onto that opponent's unit that maybe they wanted to keep safe. But the important thing is you don't have to make that decision until after your opponent has made their plan, at which point for them it's too late and you can absolutely crush them for glorious war. But it's that aspect of knowing when you have to look and evaluate immediately at your deployment, and it's such a skill. I get it wrong all the time, and so just this is why in the previous video so many of you asked I was quite down on scouts. I generally am, because on top of all of this you've got all of this strategic thinking that goes into one very, very simple rule. If you don't use that move, it can feel like you've not got your points worth. Baked into the cost of scout is the benefit of moving up 12. And so sometimes scout's less effective. Remember this though, over the course of the tens of games you'll play in OPR, you won't remember it too badly, but you will remember when you very stupidly, aggressively moved up your scouts to try and take out your opponent's enemy unit. They rolled a 6 on one of their defences, you weren't able to get all your damage through, and now your scouts are stuffed. So that is generally why in the previous video I was quite down on scout. I just wanted to be very clear about that. But also, it can be such a strength. And it's a strength in an army where half of the units you're deploying can be deployed with scout. Let's have a look. Okay, let's get into things, shall we? So we've gone over Demon now. It's certainly in terms at length at the scout aspect of it. Ambush aspect of it, of course, very, very strong. In previous videos, you will have seen that we've discussed good ways of using ambush by threatening multiple units at once, and also not needing to deploy them on round 2. You can wait till round 3. All of these are nice little bits that come in, baked into this army-wide rule of Demon. Other things that come about, let's pick on some easy ones. Warning Cry, nice and effective if you're worried about other demons. Only problem is you can't do anything about Lust, sorry. All of the demons have got banners and symbols that come into them. The symbol of war, the one for the war demons, is this. Once per game, when you activate it before attacking, you roll a number of dice, because it's Symbol of War, X. For each 2+, you get an effect, and for War Demons, target enemy unit within 12 inches takes 3 hits with AP1. AP1 on this is just such a nice little touch. It's something that just gives it a little bit more oomph when it hits. You can really have some big effects on the statistics of your opponent's defense. One of the things that's very important about this is that the War Demons, they've got one ranged unit down here, and it's not a particularly good one, and so having this means that you can squishy up something before you charge it, or what you can do, which is so valuable, is you can impact on, I shouldn't say impact, but you can affect 2 enemy units in a single activation. Perhaps with this you're going to be charging one squishy unit of your enemy's minions, pulverizing them down to the last man, and at the same time you throw out a Symbol of War onto another unit. At the end of the activation, if you brought them below half, they have to make a morale check. Boom, you might shake 2 things at once here. Destroy one, shake another, or even just soften it up. Perhaps you're worried about their counter charge coming to you. Symbol of War, very, very versatile. There's a reason it's once per game. It's an excellent thing to stick on where we can find it. Other things that come through, resistance, familiar rule here. I'm not fishing for this, but where it comes up, it's quite nice. We've got Pierce, which is kind of like Devour, which is when the model attacks, you roll a dice, and on a 6 you get to do an extra hit. It's nice if it's there. I'm not particularly fussed about picking it up. I'm not going to be looking to pay to buy it. Mutations, this is quite a common one. You roll a die when attacking with the unit in combat. On a 1 to 3 you get Rending, on a 4 to 6 you get AP1. I like this. It's rarely an upgrade, an OPR, but even when it's strapped onto a unit, I think that's a pretty nice one to have. Heavy Pierce is Pierce, but loaded up, which is great. You get 3 hits rather than 1. That is nice. That does increase the likelihood of me wanting it a little bit, but that 6+ just leaves me hesitating. And then 2 really nice effects. One of them is way stronger because of the application we'll come on to. Blessing of War. This model unit unit get +1 to hit in melee. Nice. We are a nearly entirely melee army with the Demons of War, and having an extra +1 to hit for the unit is very strong. Banner of War. I'm going to come on to this later, but this is something that's very exciting. Now, the spells. One thing to bear in mind is that when we're looking at the Grimdark Future Demons of War, they have got a different spell list to the Age of Fantasy Demons of War, and also, strangely, to the Havoc Brothers of War that are in Grimdark Future. You might have to fact check me on this, but I'm fairly certain that this is the only instance where we don't actually have identical spell lists. Fact check me on that one, but it's quite interesting. So let's go through the spells, shall we? Another thing that is, of course, quite important is that it is only recently. Another thing, of course, that's quite important is that it's only recently that the War Demons, War Havoc Brothers, and the War Havoc Warriors got spell lists and spellcaster added to them. They are very strong. Caster, of course, a very strong rule. So let's see what we're going to be looking at in the Demons before I come on to talking as well about the way that Caster is rolled out into the Demon lists. So we'll start, of course, at the level 3 ones. Thornfield, excellent. 2 enemy units within 12 take 6 hits each. Really powerful effect. As I've said before, important to squishy things up. You want to soften up whatever you're charging, or maybe impact a couple of things, get out a few morale checks. On top of that, the 12-inch range, which I didn't really talk about previously, but I will here, is less of a concern to you. You're a 99% melee army. You want to be in melee with them, and you want to be in 12 inches, so really good to get. Havoc Charge. Target 2 friendly units within 12 inches get AP +3 next time they charge. Now, this is an incredibly powerful effect. Don't knock it at all. I just sometimes will probably want to be throwing out the Thornfields instead. It does depend, though, mostly on my opponent. If I'm against a Battle Brothers, Prime Brothers, Custodians list, or a heavy mechanised list that my opponent's brought lots of defense 2+, then yeah, I'm probably going to be looking for this one. throw it down on whatever the caster's unit is, and bam, in we go, AP plus 3. Moving down, target enemy model within 12 takes 2 hits with AP 4. It's a nice clean-up effect, really. If they've got a multi-wound model that you kind of want to plink away, it can be quite good. I'm just not particularly fussed. I'm very rarely casting this. Target 2 enemy units within 18 inches, get slow. Are you concerned that your opponent's going to countercharge you? Then this can be very, very strong. Again here, target enemy unit within 12 takes 2 hits with AP2. Cute, it's a level 1 spell. Fling it out if you've got some spare dice. And Horrified. Now this is a nice war themed one. I want to be in melee with you, you probably want to shoot me, let's make shooting worse. So I'm usually not too hot on -1 to hit rolls when shooting, but in this army it's cute. I might not necessarily have a good target, I might not be in range of this level 1 spell, but I've got the spell. If I've got the spare dice I might want to throw out -1 to hit. Let's go into the units. Now I'm going to talk about caster a little bit more here. A quirk, a design of all of the demons lists is that you won't find... Ooh, hold on. We're back. Yeah, I did have to check this. I thought I was right about it. Unfortunately, I am. You will not find a Caster 3 upgrade on any model that's worth anything less than about 450 plus points. One of the things I was just checking is to make sure that in the Change Demons list it's the same thing. Sadly, for the magical sadly for the Havoc list that is spellcasting focused, you only get Caster 2 on these 2 models here, and then the next one's on the Ascended Harbinger. Ascended Harbinger of War is another one that gets it. What that means is if you're playing 1500 points, you can't get access to Caster 3. One of the things that's kind of cute to note is that the units, the heroes, the core units, the monsters and vehicles and so on, between Grimdark Future and Age of Fantasy are the exact same. So here's an extra bonus of picking up a Demons of War list or a Demons list in general. Bam! You can play both systems and on you go with your happy way. But if you're playing 1500 points of Age of Fantasy, you're not going to have access to Caster 3. It is too expensive to have the 485 point demon with Caster 3 thrown in. In Grimdark Future though, we're dealing with 2k here, so there isn't so much of a problem. Into the list we go. I'm going to skate over the Avatar of War. It's 855 points. At 2k Grimdark Future, your points limit is a 700 point model. 525 points if you're at 1500, so we are unfortunately not using the Avatar of War today. He's a big boy. Look at him though. Caster 4. If you're rocking up in the points and you're going to higher and higher point limits, so for example if you were to go to 3000 points, this guy can come in. Caster 4, very nice. Symbol of War 4 is very nice as well. You get some cool upgrades on him. Huge attacks going out, tough 18, lovely. We're not there today. One of the things that I have somewhat skated over in talking about the other army-wide rules is that all of the demons have got their own other army-wide rule that isn't demon. For the Plague demons, it's Putrid, which is a 6+ extra defense roll. For Lust, it's Fast, which is huge. We'll talk about that another day. For Change Demons, it's Stealth, which is -1 to be hit by ranged attacks over 9 inch away. Not very strong, sadly. Now for War, it's Furious, which ties in really nicely when you look at the rest of the army list. And as I've said, if you didn't know already, you are charging in, getting what we call exploding sixes, which is your 6 explode into another hit when you're charging, is really excellent. Got to remember that as well with this army, you are scouting into aggressive positions quite often, with the huge asterisk that we've spoken about already, but also you're going to be ambushing in half of your army. And when you're ambushing in, you're looking for charges, you're looking for good angles to pressure their weak points, or, as can sometimes happen, if you put down an ambushing unit, say you're going first into the turn, you get a charge off and you've got another ambushed unit sat there, you might force them to come back and attack your unit and come off of objectives. People don't like being charged, people like to be in control. You like charging and you like being in control with war. So that's going to be a nice thing to look at. Let's have a look at this chunky Ascended Harbinger of War here. 485 points. It's a big one. It is a 2/2, and basically, as a basic level unit, it's got 4 AP1 attacks, and it's got two attack blast weapons. So in total, that's 4 attacks with blast 3. Damage potential of 12 AP1 hits here. Very good basic unit. If you're playing 2000 points of Age of Fantasy, firstly, where are you? I want to come and play. Secondly, that is an excellent profile. You're hitting on 2s, which people usually pay for reliable on flamer weapons. You're flying in. Blast 3 is going to do a lot of damage to multi-target units. Really good starting point. The upgrades, I'm going to pass over the weapons right now, and I'm going to focus instead on this upgrade with any. This is an absolutely massive, massive thing. It's not upgrade with 1. You can have all of these. Now, flying is massive. The ability to ignore terrain is already very, very strong in one-page rules, but the fact that you can then go over units as well is so important. On top of that, when you're using an Ascended Harbinger, they're big models if you're using the proper OPR ones, or if you're using a substitute, I hope you're using a big model, it's exciting. And you can quite easily get gummed up and blocked by not just your own units, but your enemy's units. It can be very easy for them just to go ahead, put a big old ring of chaff in front of you, and then you can't move, flying, you're sorted. Caster 3. The break point on Caster 3 versus Caster 2 in terms of the output that you can get is pretty damn substantial in a game of one-page rules. For example, just consider that over a 4-round game, you're going to be getting, I know it's obvious, but 4 extra caster points. That can break down to 4 extra spells, being 4 extra units impacted, 4 extra morale checks. If you can say to your opponent at the end of the game, you have a choice, I spend 20 points fewer, or 20 points more and you take 4 more morale checks, I know which one, if I was your opponent, I'd rather say. So, Caster 3, very strong. Looking at what you can do, you can replace these blast weapons with any of these. Now, if you want to be a little bit odd in this army, quite frankly, you can give it a 12-inch range 8 AP1 attack. In other demon armies, that War Whip upgrade is really, really strong. Looking at you, Lust Demons, for other reasons. But here we're not really interested in it. Furious only works in melee. So yeah, we're not looking for any ranged attacks, really. Now we're going to go down the line here. A6, AP1 Rending, Chef's Kiss. Beautiful effect. AP1, really sweet to have. It's not too expensive. Rending, fantastic effect. You want to bring a little bit of Rending in your army. You want to be able to rip off regeneration. 25 points, that's a great upgrade. This is probably what I'm going to be looking for immediately. You've got an A2, AP3, Deadly 3. Maybe in your local meta, people love to bring vehicles. Who knows? I love a big chunky unit, and so perhaps Deadly is a good shout, but it does have diminishing benefits over the course of the game. And A6, AP4. AP4 I think is quite excessive. It can be very good again if you're facing lots of Prime Brothers, Battle Brothers and Custodians and other vehicles, it can be good. For the points here, the difference of 45 points, I'm probably looking at 2 flame axes. Ascended Harbinger of War. He's going to be coming in the army. I'm going to be having one of these, at the very least, because I like having a big, chunky unit. They're very good for repeat and constant damage output. They're good at mitigating against counter-attack armies. The Battle Brothers, the Wolf Battle Brothers and the Wolf Prime Brothers, and if anyone for some reason is bringing an army that's got spears in it, to kind of get those in. The other big chunky thing in the demons is the Soul Demon, but again, 890 points, he's too many. And then again, it's a quirk of the demons that they don't have a core unit that is more than tough 6. So I'm looking to get my tough unit out of my heroes here, and I'll be bringing an Ascended Harbinger of War. Looking at these 3 heroes here, they do a little bit different thing. I'm going to first of all go on to the Harbinger of War. 160 points, it's a tough 6 model. It's a 3/3, so the Ascended Harbinger is a 2/2. This one's a 3/3. It's a nice unit to have in your army. It hasn't got very many upgrades. Another thing about demons is that they've all got this sort of upgrade with any pattern that's repeated throughout. You'll see it on the Champion of War, and it kind of relates to the tier of strength that they've got. So the Ascended Harbinger, flying, it's got the Banner of, the Symbol of War 3 and Caster 3. Harbinger of War has Symbol of War 2, Caster 2, Champion of War 1, you get it. So the Harbinger of War is good for these sorts of well-rounded upgrades. Its damage profile is really nice. One of the things I did lightly skip over is Fear, which is of course great if you're in a grindy game and you and your opponent are flinging sixes at each other because you're all fatigued. Fear is really good as an extra tiebreak there. It's a similar thing. It comes with a couple of blast attacks and an AP1 attack, and then you can give it a whip. You can give it, we've spoken through this now with the other one, you can give it deadly, you can give it high AP or AP1 rending. I'd be giving it AP1 rending. Champion of War is a very similar situation here. It's a 4/4 though. You've got the wands on the caster and the symbols, but with the Champion of War, Change, Lust and Plague, you can also get a couple of upgrades. And for this army, for War, you've got a Great Beast, which gives it tough +3, an extra pip of defense, fast, impact and an extra attack, or you can give it a Throne of Blood, which gives it defense, fear and lots of attacks and tough. What I am not looking to do is start my army with these two. I'm going to be starting with Ascended Harbinger. I'm going to then build the army out, and from that point on, I'm going to then come back to the heroes as point fillers. Moving into the units. The unit roster for the demons isn't huge and exciting, but it is what they do. It's baked into these keywords here that is what is really the kicker that you're going to get out of it. Starting with the War Furies. So, they've all demon lists have got these Furies. They're 5/5s, so you get them in packs of 5. They have flying along with their respective demon rules. They all have, I'm pretty sure they all have 2 attacks as their basic. And for War Demons, they've got AP2. Already, this is an incredibly efficient unit. It's flying, it's scout or ambush, it's furious, it's all melee. The downside is it's a 5/5. If this thing gets hit, they're going to go. You can then upgrade it for very cheap. All arm blades for 5 points gives it AP1 rending. We spoke about AP1 rending being an excellent combination of rules as it is. So really very good output on this. And let me tell you folks, it only goes better from here. Blood Warriors, 5 of them, 75 points. They don't have flying. They only have 1 attack, but 75 points for 5 4/4s is pretty good. You get into the upgrades and it gets even better. I frankly just kind of usually skip through all of these first ones. AP3 on A1 is excessive. Don't really recommend spending your points there. Halberd, A1, AP1 rending. AP1 rending, we love it here. You should too. But also, dual hand weapon, A2, AP1. That extra attack just means that your output, oddly enough, doubles. You'd be quite shocked to find out when you times 1 by 2. Having that in there is excellent for especially War Demons and also Lust Demons when you're considering their special rules. But when you've got Furious thrown in there, remembering that every 6th attack extra that you can add in, on average, gives you another attack because of Furious, we suddenly start to scale things up. I'm going to come back to the Banner of War because it's really quite important. Nice thing about this being an Age of Fantasy and Grimdark Future cross-compatible army, you get the Age of Fantasy upgrades, and Musician for 10 points is really a very nice one to have. An extra 1-inch movement. Looking back at it, you can put some heroes in there as well. Put a hero in and give that 1 extra movement as well. You can get some good things going there. Banner +1 to morale tests, also very nice when you're on a 50-50, which a 4+ is. Suddenly giving yourself that extra pip, an extra chance of staying alive, an extra chance of not shaking when you're shot. Banners can be quite good, it's why they're expensive. Bloodhounds, again, continuing my love for efficient units. We've got a fast demon unit here, which is just cracking. It's got quality 3 defense 4+. We are in the realms of some really strong units here. Each of them comes with 2 attacks and AP1, just fantastic. That on its own is worth taking at least one of, a fast unit with A2, remembering as well that you're ambushing in. Consider this. You ambush your unit in over 12 inches away from your enemy's melee unit. Both of you want to charge each other. If you ambush over 12 inches away, normally neither one of you can. Ambush plus fast is suddenly incredible. You have so much more board control. I spoke a little bit about overlapping fields of control from charges earlier. Fast just increases it massively. If you really want to get into the crunchy maths of it, at some point we can discuss circles in this and how a single pip of radius gets even bigger as to actually increasing the area of a circle. Sorry, boring maths for you there, but it is relevant. Another thing you can do is give them anti-wizard collar resistance, which is the 6+ save, 2+ against spells. It's nice, I'm not rushing to take it. Moving on and up in the world, Beast Riders. 200 points for 3 tough 3 models. Excellent. Quality 4 defense 3. Excellent. Each one of them comes with, it's separated into hand weapons and heavy claws because you've got the beasts doing the clawing and the people doing the punching. Ultimately, each model has 2 attacks with AP 1 and impact 2. Really excellent. Again, to look at, you can take their hand weapons and give them rending as an upgrade. Again, I wouldn't really consider taking this AP 3. You've got the full command options available for you. Great models, really nice unit profile, love them. We have this War Demon Spawn, a big beastie, nice and straightforward. It is very much what you get on the tin here. Demon has got Fear 1, which is good. It's a 4/4, so I'm not, again, overly thrilled. This is the one with mutations for rending an AP 1. Strider. This is another big thing. We've talked about ambush with fast and how powerful that can be. Ambush and Strider, you drop your unit down into a difficult terrain spot where perhaps your opponent can't quite get to. Doesn't matter that you're within 12. If they don't have Strider and you do, you get the charge. And remember, folks, getting the charge with Furious is what we're trying to do here. 6 attacks, AP 2. On average, you're hitting 3 times on the charge. You should actually be hitting 4, to correct myself there, because of Furious. 4 hits on the charge with AP 2. Pretty damn nice. Might pick one of these up if I've got the spare points for it and I'm looking for something of the sort. I'm more focusing on the other 4 units here. We've got a Chariot. Now, this is one of the points where if you're really scared about your opponent having counter-attack, you might want to bring one of these, but it is quality. Here's where I'm down on quality 4, where we've only got 2 attacks. They're AP 2, Blast 3. Very nice. 30 inches is good. 30 inches is also something that you are paying enormously for. I spoke a little bit earlier about circles, and again, this is really boring stuff, but it is important maths. Each extra point of range that you get increases your area of control by a much larger amount than you really think about. And because of that, 30-inch guns are so expensive in one-page rules. This is 195 points. In an army where I'm trying to charge you, it's not excellent. It's a poor solution, quite frankly. I had to be called out on this myself recently when I built one of these into a list. It is a poor solution. Soul Demon of War we touched on, tough 18, loads of points, take it in your bigger games. So, overall, what am I looking at here? I'm looking at a really lean list, a very efficient list, one that has a whole load of wham that comes in, but you've got to remember that with most of the army being quality 4 or worse, you're not going to survive morale checks, so you just need to make sure that you hit them so hard on your first way in that they don't get back up again. If they do, brace. Demons aren't fantastic at taking a hit back. The Plague Demons can take it, but that's probably the only ones who could grind it out. So you need to make sure you hit them hard, you need to make sure you hit them fast, and let's get into a list that'll show you how to do just that. Let's have a look at the War Demons list for today. We're in Grimdark Future, we're at 2,000 points. We have got Force Organisation turned on, and that means that we're up to 10 maximum units, 4 heroes, and 3 copies of any one unit. I said it in the build-up, I'm saying it now again. In we go, an Ascended Harbinger of War. I'm going to start by juicing him out with Caster 3. I'm 100% giving him that Symbol of War as well. It's so powerful. And my default loadout for this guy is going to be 2 A6 AP1 rending attacks. It's 630 points, but it's a defense 2 unit. It's 12 points of toughness. Try not to get this trapped by your opponent's deadly attacks. Pay attention to your opponent's spellcasters as well. But if you can get this guy going in the middle of your army, in the middle of your opponent's army, you're going to be doing absolute carnage. Just simply enough. Remembering as well, if you're ambushing, I do recommend you ambush this unit. He'll come down with 6 caster tokens attached to him, and then from there you can very easily get off a 2+ Thornfield for a load of hits, and then you could even go ahead, follow up with a bit more damage if you wanted to affect another unit, or start to bring down their shooting abilities. You're worried about their counter attack from range? Here we go. Moving on down the list, I like seeing a Furies unit in my Demons lists, and here you can just double it up nicely. 210 points, it is massively efficient. This is 20 AP 2 attacks coming in on the charge. Quality 5+ means we're hitting a third of the time, but the volume of attacks means you're going to get on average 3 extra hits out of it anyway. So when you're coming in with this many attacks, you're going to be getting 8-9-ish hits on the charge with AP2. Consider throwing that into a unit of enemy Battle Brothers, and they are not around for very long. The War Furies, though, they cannot take it back. Defense 5+, quality 5+. You take a couple of hits into this and they're going to start shaking and falling apart very quickly. Blood Warriors I'm going to come on to in a minute, because as I said, we've got to discuss Banner of War. I'll stick in some Bloodhounds, and actually I will put in, for those of you at home who like the range on it, fast units, impact, very nice. I will put in a unit of Beast Riders, but what I'm now looking to get excited about is this unit of Blood Warriors. Banner of War. This model and its unit get impact +1. That impact +1 is absolutely massive when you stick it onto a unit and you double it up. With that, you're now an impact 10 unit at a very, very good points cost. When you stick in the extra weapons that come with it, we're in a nice spot. Now, I'll come on to the damage output, but there is a trap here that you can fall into, which is what I've just set up. If you have a unit with Banner of War and then you combine it, it will give you a second unit with Banner of War. Don't do that. Sadly, you don't get 20 impact hits because of 2 Banners of War. I initially thought that this was the case because it's upgrade 1 model width, so I thought that it being equipment would work more like a weapon than it would like a special rule. But I am told by the internet that that is not the case. This would be quite like if you have another unit that had upgrade 1 for medic for regeneration, you don't get 2 loads of regeneration. It's a special rule that applies to the unit. It is not a piece of equipment for a model. So you can't have impact 20, sadly, because that would be a bit silly, but this is still an incredibly powerful unit. We have spoken a little bit around ambush and fast. You can get a budget fast here by putting a musician in. And now this unit is terrifying. This unit, when it charges, is 20 attacks with AP1. All of those have got Furious, so on average you're going to be getting 3.5-ish, 3 extra hits coming out of it, which is huge already, so that's going to be 13 AP1 hits. And then you've got impact on 10 of these models, which is about 7 or 8 extra hits. You are making light work of most medium defense units in the game here. Now, the musician aspect for that poor man's fast is very important, because if you're ambushing in your Ascended Harbinger and you're ambushing in these Blood Warriors, you really want to make sure that you are getting the charges and you're not getting charged. We've spoken already about how with middling quality in defense, demons can't really take a hit. And so with that musician, you're really setting it up that you can deploy 13 inches away from someone, you're outside of their charge range to you, you can charge into them, again, even though the alternating activations has come in and you've hit them perhaps with your Ascended Harbinger. This is incredibly powerful, and this is really one of the reasons to get very excited about the unique things that you can do with War Demons, because that Banner of War is not the same effect in the other Havoc gods. Now, we had a look a little bit earlier, we touched on to Blessing of War as an upgrade. This model in its unit gets +1 to hit in melee. This is where we can start to really push the oh crap factor of this unit of Blood Warriors. We're going to attach the Champion of War to the unit of Blood Warriors. I'm going to get rid of his Flame Hammer for 2 Flame Axes, so this guy has now got 4 attacks, AP1 rending on the charge, which is nice. You can upgrade them to AP4. I don't recommend you do this. but then you give them Blessing of War. This unit, it's expensive. You might even decide you want to charge with this because of how fragile it is before your Ascended Harbinger, which I wouldn't begrudge you for if you made that decision in a game. But everyone in this unit has a 13-inch charge. You've now got 24 attacks coming in on the charge. You're hitting on 3s with your Furious. Your Furious here on the 24 attacks is an average of 4 extra hits. If it comes in well, they might have Rending as well, so that bumps it up to AP 5. And remember, Rending is +4 to your AP. It doesn't set you at AP 4. It says ignores regeneration and unmodified rolls of 6 get AP 4. But it does give you AP +4. I'm just taking a quick pause to explain why it is AP +4, because I know people will come and fight me in the comments over this, because Rending here says very clearly, says it there, it says it here, unmodified rolls of 6 to hit get AP 4. Okay, yes, I know that's what it says, but remember this. Note that effects from multiple instances of the same special rule or spell don't stack. Banner of War, we've discussed that, unless it is a rule with X in its name, and so Rending gives it AP +4. It's an AP 5 hit if you get your Flame Axe to hit on a 6. Do remember though that Rending +4 does not carry over to the Furious hit. If your Champion of War comes in, hits on a 6 with one of its attacks, it gets 1 hit with AP 5, massive, and the hit that comes off of the Furious is AP 1. The Rending doesn't flow over to that next one. We end up though with a really nasty unit, so you're doing some lovely, lovely work. Now if you're worried about taking a hit back and it now becoming a bit much and you're going to risk losing your unit, this is where you can put in a banner. We are pushing the cost on this unit, but it's a really nice unit. You're hitting on 3s, your morale is a 3+, you've got 11 impact hits, because remember it's impact, the model and its units gets impact +1, so it's 1 for everyone who's in there. You're Furious, you are poor man's fast. This unit hurts. At the same time, there might even be a bit of a mind game between you and your opponent on not ambushing in. I've certainly played enough games where both me and my opponent have looked at the board and said we don't want to ambush in on round 2. You may decide that you want to hold one of your ambushing units back. You are allowed to. Just don't leave it beyond round 3, because if you ambush in round 4, you can't contest objectives. So this is very, very nice. And this is also then thinking about how perhaps in 50% of your games, you win the first deployment and first activation roll-off. So you might want to scout this unit in and just place it right the way up. If you're playing the 24-inch game, as OPR is designed to do, you put it up 24 inches, so you're already within 12 inches of your opponent's deployment zone, and if they've deployed on the line, you've caught them. Straight away you can charge in there and you can crunk one of their biggest, scariest units. Remember, this is one of your biggest and scariest units, and so your opponent's going to turn around and annihilate it. And perhaps if that's your game plan, you take Banner off. You're not willing to spend 400 points on it. But really, there aren't very many units that are going to survive this sort of charge. I'll leave it to you math brains at home to go ahead and tell me what 24 attacks hitting on 3+ turns out as, but it is nice. So that was why I paused so much on the Blood Warriors, because this is one of the big, nasty, cheesy things that you can get off with War Demons. Now we're at a point where we're at nearly 1600 points. We've got 5 units in our army. I mentioned it in the previous video, I like to aim for 7 units in a Grimdark Future 2K point army. If you can get more, then brilliant. So, for example, we're at a limit of 10 here. You might just want to do something silly, like go for another unit of War Furies, another unit of Bloodhounds, and a War Demon Spawn. I wouldn't begrudge anyone putting this list in front of me. It's 8 activations, you can ambush half, you can scout the other half. War Demon Spawn, I spoke a little bit about in the little review there. It is quite a nice, efficient unit. Everything in this army is very efficient. AP2 is really good. It can be AP3, which does kind of push the bounds of necessary AP in my view. But again, in Grimdark Future, who doesn't love slapping down a tank or a big vehicle or a walker? I love the assault walkers in other armies, custodians for example, and they're all defense 2. I also love custodians who are defense 2+ on the brothers, and I love sticking a shield on them. So extra AP can be very good, and at the same time there's a chance that you get rending. People love to stack regeneration, and this is one of the reasons why you might decide that that'll be better, because you want to take regeneration off your opponent. On top of that, this War Demon spawn having Strider, really good for capturing objectives. If you want to decide that with this army, so taking this list in particular as an example, we've got 2 units of War Furies who've got flying and a War Demon spawn with Strider. You could decide to play a really cagey game where you scout those units, so they're on the board but you don't actually move them up. You just hold them back for later in the game where, surprise, you've placed all of your objectives in difficult terrain and you have the freedom to move on to them and control them in a way you want, whilst the rest of your army is just running around going pow. So that's one possible build route. So then if I take all these 3 units out again, we're at the spot where 5 units. Now, if we were just going to focus on hitting 7, we can get a little bit inventive here. If I were to put in, I think Furies is just great. It's a great unit to have. 100 points, very, very cheap. You can scout it and you can ambush it, and it's got flying. I just think that perhaps having one of those is all round strong. It's nice to have chaff in an army to just throw away an activation that you don't have to worry about too much. You could stack it this way. This is an example of something you could do here. Put in a unit of Blood Warriors, so you've got 2 extra units of chaff here. One of the War Furies, who are slightly better because of flying. One of the Blood Warriors, who are just the worst, but they're not exactly bad. And then you could get exciting and double up your Beast Riders. And now we've got 3 units that your opponent should really be scared of. This one is just raw damage. This one is very, very versatile, but also a lot of raw damage. You've got that Symbol of War that we've spoken about as well. The Castellist just being strong, lots to do there. And then this unit of Beast Riders, which being fast, can just nip around the board to wherever you need it to be. On the charge, this particular unit as well, remember it's going to have 12 impact hits. And I was already going on about how exciting 11 impact hits is, so hey, what's better than 11 usually is 12. Or at least, you know, if you're looking at impact hits and hey, how many cookies are in a bag. So that's one possible construction of it that puts you in a place where you've got 25 points left. So we can then have a look at what exciting upgrades. Caster 1, I think, is absolutely naff. Symbol of War is a good option to put in here. We've got this one with the Musician and the Banner already, so I'm happy with that. I might want to then go Musician and Banner into this unit, where our fast units are now moving 17 inches. And our Banner unit means that this unit of 4/3s is now a unit of 3/3s for morale. That's a really scary army to have. And on top of that, with the unit of Beast Riders, so we've spoken about one idea being to scout up this unit of Blood Warriors into the middle of the board, go through for a big old splatter kapow on the opponent, but then accept that that unit's going to die. The unit of Beast Riders, being defense 3, is slightly more resilient. So this one as well is 18 tough points within it, because it's 3 times 3 twice, so 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 2 is 18. On defense 3, you might survive a bit more damage coming back at you, and hopefully get ready for another big impact hit next round. Another thing that is a benefit to the Beast Riders version of Impact versus the Blood Warriors is that if you lose one model in your Blood Warriors, you're going to lose 1 impact. If you lose 2 models or 2 wounds, you're going to lose 2 impacts. You need to lose 3 wounds in the Beast Riders to lose 2 of those impact hits. And so the maths is kind of similar, but at the very least, psychologically, it feels better. But if you do, for example, take 2 and only 2 points of damage, you are preserving your impact. And this is really now, that's me looking for the finest sharpshootery sort of angles of looking at it. So there we go, that was 2 different ways of building out War Demons, with a heavy core in list building on the Ascended Harbinger, the very expensive unit of Blood Warriors, and then another very expensive unit of Beast Riders. Let me know what your thoughts are on that list, because it is certainly an army as well that can be built in a few different ways. You could, for example, want to pile in on 2 units of 10 War Furies. Perhaps your mates at your local game store really love to bring regeneration, and so you want more rending, and so there's a way where you put this as a doubled up unit of War Furies to rending, and it's 220 points, and you find other ways of doing it. You may not like that Blood Warrior strategy, and instead you want to keep your Blood Warriors as a bit of a versatile unit where instead you want them to be just your chaff running around the board. You can get away with doing it with 3 units of just the 5 models, 75 points, very efficient, and then making everything else big and exciting. There are quite a few ways of doing it. And of course, if you're pushing up to 3,000 points, you more than bring in your Soul Demon, your Avatars of War. I'm focusing on 2,000 points though, just because that's what we play the most of here on Don't Think Just Charge. There are some 3k point games to come, but that is further down the line in 2025. So that's where it leaves us. I think this is a pretty nice list. We've got 7 activations, we're using the strong caster list, we're using a lot of the strength of Furious. Let me know what you think down below. And of course, please do jump into the Discord and have a chat with us. If you perhaps have got some different models, you don't have all these models, say, I'd like to find out what I can build with these models, and we would love to have that chat with you. So there we go. We've been through the army, we've discussed a couple of different ways of building them out. Don't let the fact that it is a short list deceive you into thinking that it is not versatile and it doesn't have any sort of difficulty in the building aspects of the list. All of the Demons armies are fantastic for that aspect of range in a what seems to be very simplistic way. They have got a lot of depth to them that you perhaps wouldn't see on first glance. It does depend on what your playstyle is and how you want to develop your playstyle in the game. Really as well, I hope you've seen that some of the applications of what you can do with this list lend itself so well to if you are new into the game and you do want to just spend your time figuring out how to play the objective game in OPR. It is a strong view I have that melee is the strongest aspect of OPR. Of course, heavily caveated because of so many different ways that you can interact with shooting and counter-attack and all different things, but it is one of the best ways of learning a game is to play a melee heavy army, because you'll find that your moves into your attacks will hopefully set you up into good places to then attack onto objectives or to control objectives or to control areas of the board to stop your opponent ambushing behind you. And at the same time, if you are more advanced into OPR, I still think that this is going to be a good army for you, because now you're thinking a bit more in depth about your sequencing of your ambushes and how you're going to use your chaff units like your Blood Warriors to luring your opponents into doing certain moves with their more valuable units that they don't want to do yet, because it'll either overexpose them or have them waste an activation. There's all of those different aspects to it. So if you've got a printer and you want your first army in OPR, fire up the War Demons list, get yourself some of your favourite minis, go and find a nice big can of red paint and just spray it all over them. I've got Citadel Colour here. There are plenty of other good brands on the market. I love Colour Forge, which I've got up there. Just go wild with it. And make sure that when your opponents are all crying as they put down their beautifully painted models that you've just destroyed in 4 rounds of glorious bloodshed, that you take a picture of it to really savour the moment where you've crushed their spirit for the glory of the War Havoc gods. I hope you've all enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comment below. As ever, give us your thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, get involved with our Discord, and the details are down below. There's more of this content to come, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.